Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I am joined by author and retired Marine Corps aviator and base commander, Colonel Robert Wemheuer. Robert has an impressive career. He has a two-part memoir discussing his career, which stretches from Vietnam to being a base commander. So we're going to be talking to him about his book, his service, and everything that he's up to and going to be up to. So, Colonel, thank you so much for joining me.
Curtis, it's a pleasure to be with you today.
Why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, Curtis, I think maybe a little introduction to my life story might be relevant since that was what was one of the genesis for writing my memoir. But I was born in Chicago, Illinois. My mother worked at the University of Illinois when she was pregnant for me at Navy Pier as a, journalist. And that was right on top of the nuclear experiments that were going on for the Second World War. And she had a lot of problems with her pregnancy. Later in life, they attributed her problems with the pregnancy to being exposed to radioactive materials, which they were using directly below her position. But I was born in October of 1943 and came out with a few problems, if you will. I had scoliosis of the back. I had a sixth finger on my left hand, had eye problems, and punched in nose and a few other physical problems. Was underweight. I was about 5 pounds, 5 ounces, I think, when I was born. But to make a long story short, I had a rough childhood, and things didn't get really better until I got into my first year of high school. My father suggested that I play football and join the wrestling team, which I did. And I had a coach and a mentor who was a Marine who had served in the Chosin Reservoir in Korea. And he is the one who got me started with my career, at least pointed me in the right direction for my career in the Marine Corps. He taught me all about the Marine Corps, what Semper Fidelis meant, what the edicts were for the Marine Corps, principles like always accomplishing the mission, never quitting, and always get the job done. He also instilled in me the principles of adapt, improvise, and overcome problems. And also, one of the things that he really stressed while he was in combat was equality, not the other form of it, but the form of equality where you judge people based on their character and their merit and not by the color of their skin or their other attributes like slanted eyes. In his case, he went into detail. He fought alongside a lot of Koreans, and he said one thing he remembered and he instilled in me is we all bleed red. So that was one of the things that kicked me off towards a career in the Marine Corps.
Well, did you have any other members in your family that was in the service, or was it just you? And thank you for your service as well.
Well, it was an honor to serve. And yes, I had my father's brother uh, was my uncle Joe, and he served as a bombardier navigator and a B-17 in World War II. And he was, I think, about on his 15th mission, and he was shot down in France. He was the only member of his crew to survive. He told me after a few cocktails one evening that he was standing in the door and the airplane exploded, and that was all he remembered. He did wake up long enough to pull his ripcord, and the next thing he knew, he was sitting on the ground in a field in France and cut loose his parachute and crawled into some high grass and heard the German infantry looking for him, but they didn't find him. And he waited till nightfall and crawled into the area outside the field, and the resistance found him and took him to Paris and nursed him back to health. And he was repatriated to England and then taken back by boat to the United States. He refused to fly, and interesting thing, he never flew again after that time, even on a commercial airplane. But he was the inspiration, one of the inspirations for me, because he had a Distinguished Flying Cross, which he'd earned for his service, and that impressed me. I think I was about 8 years old when I saw that medal for the first time.
Is that what made you decide to fly helicopters?
Well, that was one of the reasons I wanted to be a naval aviator, and I wanted to be the best of both lives. I wanted not only to be a Marine officer, but I also wanted to be a naval aviator. And the uh, helicopter end of things was uh, not my real first choice. We in 1967 uh, were, excuse me, I get date here. Let me see. 1965 is when I got commissioned and went to flight school. And I was in a flight school class with 14 other second lieutenants. And we were all uh, run through the program, all hoping for uh, good grades so we could all fly jets. And I wanted to fly the F-8 uh, fighter, and a number of my other classmates also wanted to fly F-4s and other fixed wing jet aircraft. Well, Commandant of the Marine Corps said, not so fast. We don't need jet pilots anymore. We need helicopter pilots, because that was during the time when the Vietnam War had gotten a little more severe, and they'd had a lot of attrition of helicopter aviators. So all 14 of us were relegated to our final training in helicopters at Pensacola, Florida, before we became naval aviators. Fortunately for me, I was able to join the first CH-53 squadron that was ever commissioned, and flew the aircraft. We deployed from uh, the West Coast in June of 1967 and arrived in Vietnam in that about a month later. And I was really fortunate to fly the H-53. Of the 14 class members that graduated with me, uh, 7 of us flew the H-53, and the other 7 flew the H-46, which is a medium helicopter. H-53 is a heavy helicopter. And after our first tour in Vietnam, combat tour, we had 3 of us left, and all of 3 of us were pilots in the H-53. Nobody in the 46 group survived the first tour in Vietnam.
Well, talk about your time served in Vietnam. What was that like?
Well, Vietnam was a interesting place. It had a lot of uh, hot weather. It was humid. It had jungles. It had all kinds of animals, snakes, and uh, all kinds of things like sea snakes and all kinds of stuff that you normally would not find in the United States. But it was an interesting place. The people were very industrious, and they all wanted to live their lives, as best they could. I think a lot of them were uh, somewhat ambivalent to what was going on. There were groups of people that wanted to enslave them in communism, and they were other groups of people that wanted to maintain the democracy that had been set up in South Vietnam. But it was an interesting place. You really had to work at determining who the good guys were and who the bad guys were. I'll tell you a little story about my first tour. I was a first lieutenant, and just gotten paid, and thought I'd treat myself to a haircut and a straight razor shave. So I went into the little post exchange that they had put together with the local Vietnamese barbers manning the exchange. And I sat down in the chair, and the barber looked at me, and he didn't speak much English, so I used the little hand signals and told him, in effect, I want a high and tight haircut, sort of like I got now. And and then I motioned that I wanted to shave. And so he looked at me, and he dotted his head up and down. And so he proceeded to give me a very nice haircut. And I had looked a little strange in his eyes. He had a look like I'd never seen before, almost uh, sinister and not friendly at all. And so I questioned my decision for the straight shave, but decided to go through with it. So I went ahead, and he did an outstanding job of giving me a very nice close uh, shave with a nice sharp straight razor. So that paid him, and went back to my job. And that night we were attacked with rockets and mortars, trying to destroy the new helicopters that we just brought into Vietnam. And several people attacked the south end of the airstrip with satchel charges, and they were trying to get across the wire, and the Marine Guards terminated all of them. They killed them all on the wire. And they went ahead and took photos of the guys, including facial photos, as part of the intelligence gathering. Photos of the faces were distributed, and I looked at the five photos, and lo and behold, the barber who given me the straight razor shave was the guy who had been killed on the wire that night. So I was thankful to God that he didn't decide that he was going to take me instead of blowing up airplanes. But that was an interesting thing. You never really knew who the good guys and the bad guys were a lot of times.
Well, talk about the biggest challenge that you faced when you were a military officer.
Let's take a quick break. Okay, everybody, it's Michael E. Cullen II.
And I'm Sesame and Carta from the All Too Real 2 podcast. We're passionate about movies, TV, and pretty much all things pop culture.
Dive into the chaos of failed sitcoms, direct-to-video sequels, and the quirky realms of cinema and TV.
Join us every Thursday for your dose of All Too Real 2 entertainment.
We'll guide you through debates like whether Howard the Duck qualifies as a superhero.
Ponder if Larry the Cable Guy could be the new Rock or Schwarzenegger.
Discover if some shows and movies should have stayed in the cutting room.
Ever heard of a sitcom featuring that dictator with the funny mustache? Well, we watched it.
We're dedicated to unraveling the peculiarities of pop culture, sometimes with awesome guests.
So, if you're into the eccentric world of pop culture,
listen and subscribe to All Too Real 2.
Available wherever you find podcasts
and on Age of Radio.
Oh, I think one of the biggest challenges that I faced was trying to motivate people that didn't want to be motivated, and that's a challenge that you can lead the horse to the water trough, and a lot of times you can't make them drink, no matter what type of process you try to work on them to instill their desire to get the job done. A little story for you. In 1972, I was in Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii, as a captain, and I was a flight leader and a check pilot for instruments and other types of certifications in the H-53. I'd had a lot of flight time, 2 tours in combat, and so I knew the airplane pretty well, and I was fortunate enough to have my boss designate me to do all of these type of things. Well, one morning I was assigned to give a brand new first lieutenant aviator an instrument check, and he was a little bit on the cocky side, and so we got together and I told him what I expected. I briefed the mission and then said, the rest of it is up to you to brief how you're going to conduct the flight. And I will do everything that you ask me to, but I'm not going to do anything other than make sure that the aircraft does not get into an unsafe condition. Otherwise, it's all yours. I'll be happy to assist you, whatever you want. Well, we started out with a standard NATOPS, which is a normal briefing on how to handle emergencies, but this was an instrument check. This was designed to measure his ability to fly in the clouds without looking outside. So the first thing he didn't do was even break out the instrument checklist. So I didn't say anything. We proceeded on our way, and when we took off, he managed to not copy the clearance correctly, and we had to wait and call again for clearance. So this went on one misstep after another, and I bit my tongue and let him do what he needed to do. He asked me for some help once or twice. He did a horrible job. Make a long story short, we came back to the airfield, landed, and I asked him, I said, the first thing you do when you go in instruments is to use a checklist. And he said, it was taboo out there. It was conditions are unlimited. Why would I need a checklist? This is just a per forma check. And I said, that's not how I looked at it. And that's what I told you. This is your check ride, because if you're going out in real conditions, I need to know if you can survive or not. So he got very belligerent and he said, well, I'm going to the O Club. So I said, well, not so fast, because you're not flying anymore as an aircraft commander until you go through remedial training. So he wasn't happy with me. Operations officer backed me up. Fast forward 10 months later, and we're in the coastal environment of North Vietnam, flying helicopters in airborne mine countermeasures. And this is dragging stuff around behind a helicopter to explode mines. Another interesting mission for helicopter operations. And I'm listening to the radio, and here is this call on the guard frequency, which is what everybody monitors, and they're calling to this aircraft. Their call sign was Pineapple 11. Pineapple 11, you're turn around immediately. You're headed for Chinese communist airspace. You're within 1 mile of the communist border. Turn around immediately. And a bunch of garbled transmissions. And I heard 2 more calls like that and then nothing. So we finished our mission of dragging the sled around, trying to explode mines, and returned to the landing to the carrier and landed. We debriefed, and I wondered what happened. So I talked to the operations officer who was aware of the incident, and the same guy who I'd had on my instrument check 9 months, 10 months earlier, had been the guy who had flown within about 300 yards of the communist border, and he would have either been shot down or forced to land and been captured. But the bottom line was he was sitting on the carrier, and he didn't use the checklist to align the RMI, the direction indicator for what direction you're headed, to the proper ship's line, and that's what caused him to be 60 degrees off of heading when he was tooling around, almost causing an international incident. So it's one of those things. It's difficult to motivate somebody like that individual. Fortunately, he never flew as an aircraft commander again, that as far as I know, while he was in the Marine Corps, and he left shortly thereafter. So the other problem that I see in motivation is one of the civilian community that I worked with. A lot of the civilians I worked with are tremendous. They were absolutely outstanding individuals. However, the bureaucracy that they work within is really a challenge. I had an individual when I was at headquarters in the Marine Corps, running a military construction program for the Marine Corps. And my deputy, unfortunately, had an alcohol problem, and he was becoming more and more disabled, if you will. He would come to work drunk, and he would go out to lunch drunk. And even though we tried to get him help, it took a year for me to get him out of my organization. In the meantime, I couldn't get anybody to replace him. The system, the bureaucracy would not allow me to remove his pay or to transfer him. So I had to sit there. Again, I couldn't get anybody to replace him, so that put the workload on the rest of the civilians and the military folks that I had working. So that type of thing, trying to get people motivated and trying to get the bureaucracy to recognize that you got a job to do, and recognizing they're trying to protect their people, that I understand too. But there's got to be a little bit of compromise, if you will.
Well, let's talk about it because I know the military culture is different back from when you served. So what do you think about the military culture that's in place today?
Well, I tell you, if you'd asked me a year ago, I'd have told you that it was really horrible. It was a problem that has been precipitated by, if you will, a woke culture that pushed social programs at the detriment of mission accomplishment. And it to my mind, and I go back to the time that I was in command of a Marine Air Base Squadron, which is a support unit for an air group. Uh, and that was during the Jimmy Carter administration, where they took the money away from the military and they put it into social programs. That probably been all right if they'd still funded the military too, to the point, or at least we could do our mission. Uh, we had to go during that period to the junkyard to find parts for the equipment that we needed to maintain to keep the air station and the air group supported. You know, the six bys, the jeeps, the refuelers, all of the stuff that makes helicopter air group run was my responsibility, and we had extremely almost no money for training. One of my corporals one day said, "Hey, Major, we got no oil for the trucks." And I said, "Well, that's just drain the oil out of the other stuff and put it in there so we can at least keep enough of the rolling stock going to support the air group." So that was a really bad time, and I saw the same thing happen in the Obama and Biden administration, where social programs and social justice type of environment took a lot of money away from military preparedness, along with uh, ruining the morale, the divisiveness of pitting one group against another was, in my mind, unconscionable. I believe, and I think people like Ronald Reagan, who I served under, and this right now, Donald Trump, both have the attitude that the military is a necessary item and we need to be strong and we need to get the job accomplished. We need to keep military strength up so that we don't have never-ending wars, and we need to make sure that we instill in our fighting force the desire to be lethal versus uh, always being compassionate.
Well, what is the proudest accomplishment that you have of your military career?
I got three of them really. The first one is probably the one that stands out for me, and it's main part of the book that I wrote, and it's uh, the saving of a downed aircraft crew from a crashed CH-53 in Laos. And the story sort of goes on the 23rd of February in 1990, 1990, yeah, 1971. Sorry. A senior moment here. We were flying in a operation called Lamson 719 across the border in Laos. The Marine Corps and the Army were supporting the Vietnamese Army and Marines as they attempted to cut the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Laos. And they put ground forces in, and they had no aviation assets that could support their ground assault. So the Marines and the Army were pressed into service to do that. We had been involved since the operation kicked off on the 8th of February in putting fire support bases into Laos. This was a leapfrog type scenario where the artillery pieces would be put into fire support bases and then used to support a insertion at the next fire support base and interlocking fire support bases so that they could support the ground offensive all the way to the town of Chapone, which was 60 miles, 55 miles inside Laos, which was a fair amount of territory for the Vietnamese to take, the South Vietnamese. We put a lot of howitzers in, and we supplied ammunition and moved equipment and bulldozers from fire support bases to fire support bases. On the 23rd of February, I was an alternate flight leader for a flight of 4 CH-53s, and we also had 4 Marine Cobra escort aircraft with us, helicopters. And we ended up, I was the alternate flight leader. My operations officer was the flight leader. We went from Marble Mountain, which is south of Da Nang, up to Khe Sanh, where the basic area for support was located. Briefed the operation and got ready to execute our portion of the operation, which entailed resupply of fire support bases and movements of howitzers from a fire support base to another one. My flight leader went down. He said he had mechanical problems and had to go back to Marble Mountain. So I became the flight leader that day. We went out and did our morning worth of work in resupply of ammunition and building materials to the fire support bases that were assigned. The last part of the mission was to move 105 howitzer and 155 howitzers along with attached loads of ammunition from a fire support base down south, the furthest one south, to one that was further inland that was anticipated to be overrun by the North Vietnamese. So this became critical to get those 8 guns moved. And we attempted to do that. We went out and we got 2 guns out. I got one the first time around, and my wingman was shot out of the landing zone during a attempted pickup by significant mortar fire, small arms fire, and 50 caliber machine gun fire. The last man into the zone picked up the other 155, and we both moved those 155s to Delta 1, which was about 25 miles inland. We set those guns down and went back. The Cobras had been working the area trying to suppress the fire from the mortars and the small arms and the heavy 50 caliber fire, and they were taking a lot of fire. They also expended almost all their ordnance and used themselves as shields for us while we were trying to get the guns out of the fire support base, out of each of the revetments which the guns were placed in. It's a big log structure that sticks up about 7-8 feet and surrounded by sandbags. So when you pick the gun up, you have to lift it directly out of gun bay. But the problem was getting the Vietnamese to come out and hook up the helicopter, because the gun has to be attached to a sling, and the sling has to be attached to the helicopter to lift it out. So you end up lifting that out, and if you don't have somebody to hand the sling or hook it on to the hook of the helicopter, then the crew chief has to reach down and get that sling, and that makes time over the target, time over the gun a lot longer when he has to maneuver and direct you to maneuver over. At any rate, we picked up two of the guns. We ended up putting those in place and coming back. The Cobra guys reloaded, and we went and decided we were going to try a different approach. We were going to come in low level instead of high, and try to get in and get out that way. We came in and got two more guns out, and took increasingly more and more fire every time we got close to accomplishing the job. So the last two guns we set into place, and they immediately started using them. We then went back to Quezon area and shut down. All four of my Cobras were shot up. They had to terminate the mission. They couldn't support us anymore. So I sent them home, and I took my three airplanes and shut them down. We were doing battle damage assessments, and the flight leader showed back up, and we briefed him on what happened, and that if we didn't get a lot more support, including fixed wing and artillery, that we were going to lose an airplane if we don't, get a lot of extra support. So they went in and briefed that, and we got a lot more attention from the Army. They called it a mandatory mission, so we went back out, and the major took flight lead again, and I became the alternate flight leader again. So we went back out, getting towards dusk now, and Major Wasco, who was the flight leader, went in, and he did a high spiral from 4,000 feet above ground level down, and was able to pick up a gun after several attempts. He got that gun out. The number two guy, his wingman, went in and was able to get his gun out. And I was number three. I went in and picked up I take that back. Okay. Number two guy got shot out of the zone. He didn't get a gun. I went in and picked up a gun, and there were two guns left after we two picked up ours, and the other two guys tried twice again and could not get the last two guns out. We deposited our guns at Hotel 1 and then came back towards South Vietnam again. Major Wasco said he thought the other two guys, because of their lack of experience and because night was coming pretty quick, that he and I would do the last two guns, and they would increase the artillery and fixed wing support to again try to curtail the incoming fire that was going on. So the other two departed, got gas, went home. The two of us, along with the four Army Cobras who had been assigned to us, went back, and Major Wasco made another attempt to pick up a gun. He was at the hover for a long time, had to be driven out of the zone 3 times, finally came around, and the last time he was hit with about 6 mortar rounds right on top of his rotor system. And he called, he said he was going down. And I'm sitting there at 4,000 feet watching all of this. And we had in the back of my aircraft a 70-foot aluminum rescue ladder. And so we were circling above as the rotors of the downed airplane came to a halt. And I asked the crew, I said, are you guys all in favor of going to get our brothers down there? And all 4 of them piped up and said, Captain, we're with you 100%. So I immediately rolled the machine, which is a fabulous helicopter. It does loops and rolls. And we rolled into about an 80-degree angle and bank and headed for our downed crew. We stopped over the old downed aircraft, and the crew chief kicked out the rescue ladder out of the back and started hunting for our downed crew while we were hovering over the downed airplane. About that time, gunner on my side, the guy named A.J. Pales, was shooting at a NVA gunner probably 75 meters away. They were exchanging fire, and Pale's gun jammed. So Boganey, who was probably the best crew chief in the Marine Corps, came out of his crawl down at the back of the airplane, ran all the way forward, helped Pales get the gun unjammed, and went back to looking for our people. Pales was able to suppress that enemy gunner after he got his gun unjammed. So we're still sitting there taking mortar fire. It's getting dark. The dust is rolling all over because we create a lot of dust with that big machine. We finally see our crew down there, all 5 of them. So they're all heading towards the rescue ladder. They know they can't climb up because things are awful hot down there, lots of fire, lots of ground fire. So they use their D-rings and climb up a step or two, and everybody gets on the rescue ladder, hooks their D-rings up. We are on our way out of the landing zone, the pickup zone, climbing straight up. And we get to 3,000 feet, and we start to head towards South Vietnam at about 30 knots, which is about 40 miles an hour with these guys hanging. We got 30 miles to go, and we needed to get to Long Bay. About that time, the forward air controller who was working the mission to suppress all the gunfire, the Army guy, guy named Major Close, was doing his best to keep us from getting shot out of the sky too. And he also came up on the radio and said, "We just picked up your 2 pilots." And I said, that's impossible. We got 5 guys on the rescue ladder, and the crew of 5 is what was on that airplane. Well, unbeknownst to us, the major had picked up 2 additional people, which was against the rules. But at any rate, we were going back to Long Bay, just inside the Vietnamese border, landed and put the guys, on the rescue ladder down first, and then landed. And everybody, believe it or not, had not received any wounds per se. They had gotten bumps and bruises, but no wounds. We got everybody on board, and the pilot and the co-pilot from the downed aircraft showed up, and the co-pilot had taken a 50 caliber round in the leg and was pretty severely bleeding. So we got him on board. Sergeant Boganey got him in and gave him a little sip of whiskey that he carried along for medicinal purposes and to keep the what do they call it? Anyway, the stuff from getting too bad. But anyway, the major comes over, gets in, and tells me, "Hey, Captain, we got to go 90 miles right now to Dong Ha to take care of this lieutenant colonel who is his co-pilot who had the big wound in his leg." And we had enough gas to go the 2 miles to get refueled. So told the major to shut up and sit down, which was not a good thing for a captain to do to a major. But at any rate, we flew over, got our gas, went to Quang Tri and refueled, and then flew back to Marble Mountain in the rainstorm. But it was an interesting and long day, 18 hours in the cockpit. Yeah, the other two things you're asking about, my notable events in my career. One of them, the second one was at Headquarters Marine Corps. We established the Land Resources Management and Environmental Branch. And this organization was sort of a brainchild of mine, and it dealt with encroachment on military facilities, not only Marine Corps, but other facilities. But it had to do with airports being overrun by development. It also had to do with intergovernmental encroachment, like endangered species requirements and environmental requirements. But we did a lot of work with the people to protect the assets that the Marine Corps had, in particular for being able to train and to operate, because airport basically is constructed, people move in around it, complain about the noise, want the airport closed, move somewhere else. They close it, they move, and the whole cycle starts again. So we were trying to avoid that by compatible airport land use around installations. Same thing with ground installations where you have artillery and other things that are done at night. So the last achievement that I had in my career was running the Marine Corps Air Station, Tustin, California. It was the helicopter air station, and we, during my tenure, were awarded the Meritorious Unit Commendation for superior support of the Marine sailors and civilians and dependents that lived on the air station while supporting the air group mission and improving their capabilities. That, and we had the finest enlisted mess hall in the Marine Corps in 1988 and 1989, respectively. And those are only two of the accomplishments that the air station had while I was there with my team doing a fine job.
Well, we're just about out of time, so tell us where we can get your books and throw out your contact info so people can keep up with everything that you're up to.
You can find my books on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and I also have both books are out on Audible. I have a website. It's Robert Wemheuer Books, or excuse me, book.com, and you can go there and find out some more information about me too.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, robertwemheuerbook.com. Go check out the book, go pick it up and read it. Follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. If you want more information on the podcast, visit www.curveball337.com. Thank you for listening and supporting the show. And Colonel Wemheuer, thank you for your service. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for joining me.
Curtis, I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
For more information on the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, visit www.curveball337.com. Until next time, keep living the dream.